Hello. All right, I need to be able to see these comments from you guys. I'm going on to YouTube so I can kind of chat with you guys. Let me make sure it's coming up. Am I going live? Okay, sorry about that. Let me wait. Oh. Okay, sorry you guys. I'm trying to figure out this technology. Okay. Oh, here we are. Okay. I'm using a different software, so for some reason I cannot see comments. Where are the comments? No. Oh, here we go. Okay. We're good. All right. Welcome to the live all about the clickable effect. Hello, Tef. Hello, Asia, Bridget. Hello, Natural Beauty Within, Kosa Samili. Oh my gosh, so many of my boot campers here right now. Welcome, you guys. So I wanted to just take a couple minutes because, as you all know, we have a lot going on right now in our world. There's a lot of darkness going on, but I do believe out of that darkness will come light, and there will be more awareness and an amplification of voices for our Black community. So I did postpone the live from yesterday to today because it just didn't feel right. In support of the Blackout movement of yesterday, the whole point of that is to amplify the voices of the Black people here in the United States. And I want to do my part for that, and I can do better. And my goal and my mission here with the boot camp and with the YouTube Power Hour podcast is to share the stories of women and for them to share their journeys here on YouTube, and women of all backgrounds, all races, all nationalities, all religions. And to support the Black community, I want to continue to amplify those voices. And what I ask of you is I'm going to be actually recording a bunch of new episodes later this summer. And I want to know from you, who are the Black creators that I should feature here on the podcast? I've had some amazing women on the podcast so far, and you should definitely check them out. I will list them. I'll list them in the description below, and you should definitely check out those women: Sham Boudram, Asia Jackson, Latoya Condor, and Roberto Blake. I'm trying to think of who all had on the podcast, but I've had some amazing women on the podcast, but I want to have more, and I want to amplify those stories, and I want to share those stories of Black women on YouTube. So please comment and let me know, or let me know in the live if you're here right now, who I should have on the podcast. And keep in mind, people that I like to have on the podcast are women that have really interesting stories here on YouTube, and they've grown quickly on YouTube. So please let me know, and so I can help share those voices. And my mission here is to help you share your mission, to help you know and understand your mission for being on YouTube, your why for being on YouTube, and leverage the YouTube algorithm so that your stories are being shared and your stories are being told. And that's my whole goal and my whole mission. So today, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about the clickable effect. And let's see what a couple of you guys have to say. Hello, Noelle. Hello. It's a good thing. Okay. Oh, you hear my bird? It's actually not a bird. It's my window outside, and we have a lot of birds outside with this whole shelter at home thing. I think there's a lot more animals that are out and about. Okay. Hi, Courtney. Hello, Tef. Yes, would love to hear from more Black YouTube creators. So please let me know in the comments below. And also, not just on my podcast, I want to support the Black community here in the my channel. So please, if you are a Black creator with a channel, comment below and let's support each other. Or comment below names of other people that you say, hey, check out this channel, check out these videos. Let's share their work, and I'm committed to that. So please, in the comments below, do that, and I will go down there and I will check everybody out. I'll show some love. So definitely let's do that and amplify the voices. Okay, so the clickable effect. I have my notes here, and I do not want to miss anything. So what is the clickable effect? The clickable effect is one of the 3 steps in my 0 to influence system, which I teach in my bootcamp, which I have a free class, which I go into that as well, and which the link is in the description. But the clickable effect has to do with people clicking on your videos, right? And so there's 3 components to the clickable effect. The 2 you've probably heard of many, many times, but there's a 3rd that doesn't really get talked a lot about that I believe actually has a huge implication on whether or not somebody clicks on your videos. So I'm sure you can guess it. The 2 things, what are the 2 things that will make somebody click on your video? Your titles and your thumbnails, right? We hear so much about your titles and your thumbnails, and I'm going to talk about that in detail a little bit more. However, there's a 3rd component that is really, really important when it comes to people clicking on your videos. And that has to do with the topic of your video. Have you ever seen a video that has tons of views that the thumbnail is not that great, but you're like, there's a lot of people clicking on it? Probably has to do with the fact that it is a topic that people are very interested in. And that is one thing that you really want to think about. If you're somebody who's saying, I'm spending a ton of time on my thumbnails, Erika, I'm listening to the podcast, I'm watching the videos, I'm spending a ton of time on my thumbnails, I'm spending a ton of time on my titles, trying to optimize them, but my click-through rate still isn't that high, and I'm going to talk about click-through rate. The way you really want to think about is, what are you talking about in your videos? What's your topic? Is your topic something that people actually are interested in? Is it something that, for those of you, I know a lot of you guys in my bootcamp are here on this live right now, is it something that your true fan is interested in? I see so many people creating these videos that it's like, who cares? Is it something your true fan really cares about? Is it something that's timely? Is it something that is relevant in what's going on today? So it's something that you really, really want to think about. So the clickable effect is your titles and your thumbnails and the topic of your videos. All those 3 things work together to help somebody actually click on your video, to get somebody to want to click on your video. So it's not just about the titles and your thumbnails, because if it's your titles and your thumbnails, then you're missing a huge important part. So you really want to think about, well, your click-through rate, why might it be low? And I'll talk about more details about that in a second. Why might it be low? Well, maybe it's because the topic just really isn't something that your people are interested in, your true fan is interested in. I see a lot of people coming up with video topics. It's like, that has been done a million times. What's unique? What's special? What's different? How can you portray what's in the video on your thumbnail and your title in a way that's going to get people to click? So that's something to think about. And you also want to pay attention to your click-through rate. So your click-through rate, and I get a lot of people asking me, what is a click-through rate I should aim for? So I've actually spent, and in preparation for today's live, but also in general, I'm constantly looking at data. I work with a lot of creators on a consulting basis. So I have the back-end access to a lot of different creators, people small from just starting out to people that has hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And I'm actually doing this thing right now where I'm going through and I'm looking at videos that have really taken off on their channels, videos that have more than 50,000 views. And this is for people that have 10,000 subscribers, up even higher. And the people that have more subscribers, like in the hundreds of thousands, I'm looking at videos that are, have a few more views, like at least 100,000. But what I'm seeing consistently is those videos that seem to really take off have a click-through rate of at least 6%. So I know in the past I've always said you want to aim for 8 to 10%, but when I'm really studying and looking at these videos that are really taking off, and these are the videos that you always want to aim for, is a viral video. I call it a shooting star video, a video that's just going to take off. It's going to help you get more views on your channel, which in turn will get more subscribers. Then you want to take a look at a click-through rate. You want to aim for at least 6%. That is the average. So I basically took a ton of videos that have over 50,000 views, and I looked at the average, and it seems the average is about 6%. So that is something that you want to aim for. If your click-through rate is at least 6%, then you're pretty good. If it's lower than that, you really need to pay attention to those three things. You need to analyze that, your thumbnails, your titles, and then the topic of your videos. After your video has been uploaded, then there's only so much you can do. You can change the title and you can change the thumbnail. So what I would do is after uploading your video, after 48 hours, if it's a low click-through rate, then I definitely encourage you to go back in there and change the title and the thumbnail to try and get a little bit higher. Also, one thing to keep in mind is that your click-through rate will always be higher at the beginning, and then it tends to go lower because your video is being shown to your own subscribers at the beginning. A lot of your own subscribers that know you and love you, they're more likely to click on you when you first upload a video. So you'll see a higher click-through rate at the beginning, and then later on, I'd say within about 12 to 24 hours, that click-through rate starts to drop. So you'll really get a really good idea of what your click-through rate is 24, 48 hours later. Okay, I hope that is helpful for you guys. And if you have any questions and you're here live, then leave them for me. So that's your click-through rate. That's what you want to pay attention to. And like I said, you cannot change, obviously, the topic of your video once you've uploaded it, but you can play around with your title and you can play around with your thumbnail. All right, so what makes a good, I got my notes. What makes a good title, what makes a good thumbnail? We're going to talk about titles first. So for your title, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people making is focusing so much on that keyword research and so much on those keywords. And yes, you do want to make sure, because YouTube is a search engine, as you guys all know, you do want to make sure that you have a keyword in there, but that's not the whole story. It's not just about the keyword. What's really important is that that title is clickable, that it's going to get somebody to want to click. So you want to include, you want to do that keyword research and you want to include a keyword in your title, but you need to make sure that that entire title is something that somebody's going to want to click on, especially the first half of the title. So say, for example, you're doing a video on the best shoes for summer, right? So maybe your keyword phrase is summer shoes. Or summer sandals for best summer sandals. Why did I pick something that's hard to say? Best summer sandals or best flats for summer, right? So you're doing that. Now you want to think about, okay, what is first off, what's going to get somebody to click on, and what's going to be the most engaging for my viewer. So maybe it's something about the best summer sandals you need right now, or best summer sandals under $50. So because that's something that's going to get somebody to click, not just summer sandals. You need to think about what is going to get somebody to click. And that's really, really important with your title. Another trick for the title is the first half really wants to be that phrase that's going to be engaging to your audience, going to speak to your audience. And then the second half is an area that you can put some more keywords. And because when somebody's scrolling on YouTube, they're more mainly paying attention to the first half of the title. And then the last part can be where you add more. So maybe it's the brands, or maybe it's the stores that you got them from. So best summer sandals you need right now, and then you can put in parentheses at the end of it, Nordstrom's, Steve Madden, or whatever it is you talk about in the video, because those keywords are going to be picked up by the algorithm. But the most important thing to think about is this title going to get people to click, and not so much on what's ranking best in TubeBuddy or vidIQ. Really, it's what's going to get people to click. Because one of the things that I've noticed is that if you put enough keywords in your description, in your tags, and even at the end of your title, YouTube is smart enough, and the algorithm and the AI is smart enough to really figure out what your video is about. So people worry about, like, oh, this one word is ranking higher on YouTube and this one word isn't. Honestly, as long as those words, like, I would look at YouTube to get ideas and for keywords and to add those in your descriptions, even when you're filming your videos, to talk about them, or also when you're in your tags. But I wouldn't just create the title based on what you're seeing in some of those search engine tools, if that makes sense. I love them, and I think they have a place, and I think they're amazing. And I use them when I'm working with clients. I use them as inspiration. I use them as, oh, I didn't think about that word. That's a really good word. Okay, maybe I'll add that somewhere in the title, but I don't use it to come up with my title, if that makes sense. I use it for inspiration, but that end result that is on YouTube, that's a title that is one that I'm thinking through and I redo like 5 or 6 or 7 times. I'm not talking about just my channel. I'm talking about the channels that I work with, because I do a lot of work with them with helping them come up with their titles. And it's one that I even sleep on titles. Like I'll write out titles and then I'll sleep on them and sleep on them. And you think about also the other thing too is, hi Courtney, hi Shelly. Yes, the title flare, for those of you in the boot camp, you know about the title flare. And one of the things with the titles is I sleep on my titles. Like I will write them out and then I'll come back to them and I come back to them. I come back to them. And it's like, what is that? What are those small little words, those engaging words that are going to get people to click? And so that's really, really important. So that's your title. All right. Your thumbnail. Okay. Now let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, the other thing with the title is 100 words. So if you're planning it out about 100 words, that's the length of the title you want to go for. The other thing too is you want to also make sure with your title that it's super crystal clear what your video is about. Sometimes I see people going in the opposite direction where they're trying to be so clickable that it's confusing on what the video is about. So you do also want to make sure it's crystal clear what your video is about in your title. And that is going to parlay into what I'm going to talk about for the thumbnail. So your thumbnail, we all love talking about thumbnails, right? And like I've said before, the success of your channel, 50% of it has to do with that clickable effect. How effective, and it's not just your titles and thumbnails are, but like I said, the topic of your videos. So that is so important. So your thumbnails, right? What makes a good thumbnail? Just to put it simply, is the clearer your thumbnail is on what your video is about, the better. So many people get really convoluted in their thumbnails and they're putting so many different fonts and so many words and a lot of little pictures and emojis that it just becomes kind of a big hot mess. You want your thumbnail to very quickly, within a millisecond, showcase what your video is about. So someone scrolling YouTube, if they see your thumbnail, you don't want them to think, what is the video about? What is it? Because confusion leads to moving on. People are not going to click on a video that they need to think twice about. You want them within a millisecond to catch the attention of the viewer and to get them to take that motion and to take that action to actually click. And that comes from a crystal clear thumbnail. So you don't want to have a bunch of different words and fonts on your videos. I'd say have 3 to 5 words maximum on your thumbnail. A lot of people make the mistake of putting their actual title on the thumbnail. I see that all the time. Don't do that. That's not good advice. You do not need to put the title of your video on your thumbnail. It's in the title. So the title and the thumbnail work together. And so just put 3 to 4 or 5 words maximum if you want to put any words at all. That's the other thing. You don't necessarily have to put words on your thumbnails. If you got a great, clear, beautiful photo that illustrates what your video is about, then you don't need to put words. Words are just there to further grab people's attention. If you got a photo that does that, great. Words should be there to enhance what the video is about, to help showcase what the video is about if the photo itself isn't clear enough. So sometimes there's some photos out there that really show exactly what a video is about. Maybe, especially like an action shot, if you're doing some kind of a tutorial or an eye look and you're focusing in on the eye, or maybe, split screen the eye, another split screen is an eyebrow brush. Maybe you don't need any words on it. That thumbnail itself, a picture is 1,000 words. Well, maybe you're fine there. Maybe you don't need any words. So if you're thinking about, do I put words on the thumbnail? You think about, are these words going to help get people to click? That's all it comes down to. And maybe you're going to use evocative words like the best, amazing, OMG, big mistake, right? Those are the types of words that are going to pique people's interest and then to get them interested in clicking on your video. So it's not about, 5 to 7 words and replacing your title. You do not want to do that. You want your thumbnail, I cannot emphasize this enough, you want your thumbnail to be as crystal clear as possible. If there's any confusion on what your video is about, people are not going to click on it. That's huge. The other thing with thumbnails that I see working really, really well right now are before and afters, transformations. So having a split screen where you have a before, where you have an after. I know a lot of you guys here are in the beauty, fashion, wellness, lifestyle communities, and those thumbnails do well because it's painting a very clear picture about what the video is about. You know, if you're doing a makeup look, if you're doing a body transformation, if you're doing a styling thing, using those types of images, befores and afters, or even just several different images of you wearing an outfit, that's going to get people to click because that's what the video is about and that's what people are going to want to see, right? So those types of thumbnails do really, really well. And also using symbols as well, not just words. So check marks, X, colors like red and green. Green means go, red means bad or stop. So those things are doing really, really well right now, where you don't have to do words, but maybe simply doing an X to indicate that this is bad and a green check mark to indicate this is good or this is the right way to do something. Those things are doing really well. Or maybe you circle something and point an arrow to it with green, showing that's well. So there's a lot of ways that you can show what the video is about using different types of symbols and different colors to indicate good, to indicate bad, to indicate mistake, to indicate that's amazing, right? So you really want to be creative and start thinking about how can you create this thumbnail in a way that's conveying what your video is about, but most importantly, conveying the most important aspect of your videos. Like, why should people want to, what are they going to learn from watching the video? All right, so those are some comments on your thumbnails. Let me see if I'm missing anything. The other thing too, just very basic, but don't use a font that's hard to read. Really use a thick, bold font. A lot of people are really, really focused in on their branding, and they come up with this amazing brand logo, and they're like, oh, I have these brand colors, and then they want to now translate that into their thumbnails. But that's also a big mistake. That's great. Have a logo, have a channel banner that is beautiful, that is branded, but you don't necessarily need to use that same font in your thumbnails, because at this point, unless you're at a point where even the people I work with that at 300,000, 400,000 subscribers, I still tell them, people get so focused on their branding. They're so focused on their branding. Do you know what's your brand? Your face. Your face is your brand. So as long as your face is somewhere in your video, you're fine. You don't need to worry about the fonts. You don't need to worry about the colors. What you want to worry about in your thumbnails is fonts that are going to easily legible, that are going to get people to want to click, and colors that are bold and bright are not going to get people to want to click. So that's also a mistake I see people making, especially beginner mistakes. They're watching all things about branding. I need to get my branding, I need to get my logo. Forget about your logo. It doesn't matter. Put on your channel banner, your name, and a photo of you, and call it a day. Honestly, you don't need to spend a bunch of money on a logo when you're starting on YouTube. You really don't. What you need to get and what you need to focus on is getting people to click. And the things I'm telling you to do right now, that's going to get people to click. The more people that click on your videos, the more that you'll be able to build a personal brand. If you're not getting any people to click on your videos, you don't have a personal brand because you don't have anybody there that's, you do have a personal brand, but my point is you don't have a channel where you've got an engaged audience if nobody's clicking on your videos. So you really, really need to get people to click. The more people to click, the more people will subscribe. The more people subscribe, the more people that will watch. All that, all that happens. So, really don't make that mistake. Don't spend so much energy and time focusing on your branding and trying to bring that and think like, oh, great, I've got my font, I've got my colors, I've got this template. This is what I'm going to use for every single one of my thumbnails. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Unless you have some kind of amazing template that is working and you're getting that 6 to 8% click-through rate on every video, great, go for it. But I'm speaking to those of you that maybe are struggling and you're not consistently getting at least 6 to 8% click-through rate. So don't make that mistake. Don't be focused so much on those fonts. Focus on the fonts and experiment with your thumbnails on fonts that are going to get people to click on large, thick, bold fonts. I said just get rid of the script, get rid of the skinny fonts, thick, bold, so that it's easily legible, so that we can see what it's about. Or if you're having if you're saying, oh, I'm having troubles, like I can't really figure out what words to use, then maybe focus on not using any words at all, especially if you're something in beauty or it's visual, right? A lot of people too, what they like to do on their thumbnails is to put images of some of the products they're talking about, or even maybe some of the clothing items they're talking about. Get really creative, but what it boils down to is that, is this going to be something that people are going to click on? And here's another trick for your thumbnails. If you're doing a video, say you're doing like I talked about earlier, like summer shoes, then go into YouTube and you're trying to get some inspiration, go into YouTube for inspiration. I'm all about inspiration. And go in there and type in summer shoes and look at the videos that are getting a lot of views. And keep in mind though that sometimes videos that get a lot of views, these people have millions of subscribers. So keep that in mind too. But, you know, sometimes they have millions of subscribers because maybe they've figured out their thumbnails. But look in YouTube and see what are the videos that people are doing that seem to be doing well in that topic, summer shoes. And you can get inspiration that way, right? You can say, oh, you know, it looks like a lot of people are using a lot of different, this type of font or this type of font. So get inspiration. Obviously, be original. I'm a big believer in being original and being innovative, but it's always great to get inspiration as well if you feel kind of stuck. Okay, so that's it about thumbnails. Let me make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Here's the other thing too is, actually, let me see. I want to talk about clickbait really quickly and the term clickbait. So I think clickbait has a negative connotation. But when it comes to YouTube, your thumbnails really are clickbait. It's really bait to get somebody to click. If you break it down, it's clicking and it's baiting, right? And your thumbnail is bait. It's bait. It's catching people so that they click on your videos, right? I think clickbait has a negative connotation as if you are misleading about what your video is about. That's bad. Don't do it. So if you're having a thumbnail that has nothing to do with your video, or you're taking one little part of your video and you're saying, well, maybe I'll do that as my thumbnail, and it really isn't what your video is about, don't do that. That's bad clickbait. Bad clickbait. But good clickbait is thinking about your thumbnails and your titles as bait. It is bait. It's going to get that. It's out there. It's like a fish. You're throwing it out there and you're really hoping that people are going to click. All right. So I actually don't think clickbait is bad when you look at it in that way. When you break down the words click and bait. Yes, you're using your thumbnails and your titles as bait to reel in those views. All right. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to do these 3 things to improve your click-through rate and to improve your chances of people clicking on your videos. And I want you to apply this workflow whenever you are filming and creating content. Okay, the first thing is, before filming, you want to conceptualize the title and the thumbnail. I do not want you, unless, and I'm going to put an exception to the rule, but for the most part, do not come up with your title and your thumbnail after filming, because you want to go into your video already knowing what your video is about. And conceptualizing that title and the thumbnail ahead of time is going to have you start thinking in a different way. It's going to have you start really focusing and thinking about, okay, you know what? I was going to talk about summer shoes, but I think something that's actually even more clickable are summer shoes under $50. So it starts you thinking about ways that you can actually create your content in a way that's actually going to be more clickable. And it's going to be serving your audience better. So things that are clickable is meaning it's things that people want, right? And the more, and we talk about this in my bootcamp all the time, and you bootcampers here on this know that the more you are connected and know your true fan, the more that you can intuitively know what they need from you. And so if you conceptualize your title before your video and your thumbnail before filming, you're training your mind to start to think in a way that is geared towards getting people to click on your videos. So, and you're acting proactively and not reactively. So by thinking first what your title is going to be, then you're starting to move, work those muscles in your mind to think, okay, and you're starting to think about your audience more. And it's not so much about you, like, what am I going to film? It's like, what does my audience need from me? So I want you to really come up with that title ahead of time. And I also want you to conceptualize your thumbnail. So if it's maybe just a sketch, drawing it out, or if it's maybe just even just in your mind thinking, okay, I think what I want to do is I'm going to hold up the shoes, and I think that'll be really great, and under $50. Okay, I know I have these 5 shoes I want to talk about, but there is a fail. Should I put that fail? You see what I'm doing here? You're starting to really think about how can you create that thumbnail and that title in a way that's going to get somebody to click. You're emphasizing and putting, you're prioritizing your thumbnail and your title. And that's so, so important. So I want you to do that from here on out. If you're not doing that, I want you to do that. I want you to do your content planning in a way that's focused on and prioritizing your titles and your thumbnails. I know a lot of you guys, plan your content and you love to plan your content. And I think that's great. This is what I teach in my bootcamp. And, we have even more resources inside the bootcamp on really how to do that. But you want to conceptualize and in your planning phase, prioritize your thumbnails and your titles. You do not want to make your thumbnails and your titles an afterthought at all. The exception is if you're going to be doing something like an unboxing, or if you want to experiment. That's the other thing too with YouTube. There's tons of rules, but there's also no rules, right? Some of the best videos are just fly off the cuff because they are exciting, they're intuitive, they are what people want. So it's like if you have an unboxing and I know I'm going to talk about this unboxing, but I really don't know what's going to happen, then stay true to that. Listen to your gut. You're like, I really can't with this video. It's really going to be on how things turn out, or it's going to be on this new makeup palette, and I really don't know what things are going to, how it's going to turn out. But what I want you to do is as you're filming and as you're recording, I want you to think like, oh, okay, this is what I can title it, right? You want to be, as you're filming, thinking about, oh, what is going to be that hook? And this is actually the second part, and this leads me into the second part, but I want to kind of wrap that first part up with a bow. So the first part is conceptualize your titles and thumbnails before filming, with the exception of something that maybe is an unknown, like an unboxing or maybe a review. So, all right. Okay. The step 2 is, what is the hook? What is the hook of this video? So maybe you already know when you're conceptualizing your title and your thumbnail. Maybe you already know before filming. Okay, the hook is going to be the fact that these summer sandals are super, super comfortable and they're under $50. Or the fact is, maybe the hook is that these summer sandals are ones that nobody's talking about and they're amazing discoveries and that people need to know about them because they're whatever. So maybe you might already know what the hook is. So you really want to think about that when you're conceptualizing your titles or your thumbnails. If it's a situation where, say, it's a tutorial or get ready with me, or maybe you're thinking like, I don't know, like I know I want to film, but I just want to just go off the cuff, and that's fine. You always want to be going, especially with YouTube, you want to be true to yourself and you want to be true to your instincts and where you feel in the moment, because that's going to come off best on camera. But if you're done filming or while you're filming, you want to think about what is that hook? What is going to get people to want to click? So you always want to be thinking about that. You want to be thinking about that when you're conceptualizing your titles or your thumbnails, whether or not you're going to be doing that ahead of time or if it's something that you're going to wait for afterwards. What is that hook? What is that one piece of information that people need to know? Why would your true fan need to click on your video right now? So it's not just about a tutorial. It's not just about a product review. What about that product review? So one of the things that I talk a lot about in my bootcamp are your true fan. What are their deep desires? What are their pain points? And what are their curiosities? Those are 3 things that you really want to be always thinking about when you're creating content, because you want to be serving those to your audience. So as you're thinking about, okay, what is a hook? It's got to relate to one of those 3 things. All right, so that is part 2, and step 3 is, after you've uploaded what I talked about a little bit earlier, review your click-through rate. So review your click-through rate. And a lot of people ask, hey, should I change my thumbnail? Should I change my title? You know, the one thing you can't change is what the video is about. But you can definitely change the thumbnail. You can definitely change the title. And if it doesn't seem to be going right, then I want you to go back to steps 1 and 2 and start thinking, hey, what is the hook? What is about this video that people should really watch? Why aren't people clicking on this thumbnail and title? What is it about it? And what is in my video that's maybe missing in the thumbnail and title? Because I believe that my content's really good and there's valuable information in here, but it's just not resonating in my thumbnail, my title, because my click-through rate is only 2%. My click-through rate is only 3%. So you really want to think about what is it about my video that should really make people click. Okay, so, you know, it's not over. You can always go back in there and change your titles and your thumbnails. I really love TubeBuddy for their A/B testing. That's the Legend. So that is, I think, the most expensive package that they have, but it is really valuable if you feel stuck with your thumbnails. You're able to A/B test, and I have a link for my TubeBuddy below with a 20% off discount. And those of you in my bootcamp, you guys have the 3 months for free for TubeBuddy. But that's really valuable. And you do really want to pay attention to that. So you could go back in there. And if there's some videos that you have, and I've had people ask me this too, and this was a question that was asked for me in regards to this topic specifically, is should you go back and change your old thumbnails and titles? I don't want you to dwell on the past, you know, especially those of you that are in my bootcamp. You've learned a ton, and I apologize for the phone here. I'm still at my in-laws here, and I'm hijacked my mother-in-law's office, so her phone will ring periodically, so I apologize for that. However, like I said before, I lost my train of thought. So when it comes to your thumbnails and your titles there, you really want to make sure that you are focusing on what's going to make people to click. And if you are, now I know what I was saying. If you have old videos, right? And you're not sure, should I change the thumbnails? Should I change the titles? If it's a video that you think is really, really good, and you're like, God, I spent a lot of time on this video, and people just aren't clicking on it, and maybe it's 6 months old or 3 months old, but it's evergreen content, it's still relevant today, then there's a few things you can do. If it's a topic that really is something that is relevant today, but you can freshen it up, then maybe just do a new video on it. So maybe you've gone through the bootcamp, and maybe, you know what, I have all these new tools and new things that I can apply. So then refilm the video and do an all new video. Or if it's just the piece of content that maybe you uploaded a few weeks ago or a month ago or 2 months ago, and you said, you know what, it's so good, I don't really want to redo it. However, it's not getting clicks, then redo the titles and your thumbnails, but don't go back and review and redo every single one. Because I'd rather you focus on creating new content and focus on creating better content in the future than going back in the past. So the only time where I would say, if you're thinking, you know, I have an amazing video out there, then redo the titles and your thumbnails. But don't go ham. And I've seen some people, they'll get some tips on your thumbnails and their titles, and they'll go back and they'll redo like 50 of them. I'm like, oh my God, don't do that, because what you want to do is you want to test. So it's like, you know, take a few of the things that I'm talking about today and test them for one video, and then test them for the next video and switch things around. Don't go blanket and change 30 videos because you're like, oh, I got all these tips on my thumbnails, I'm going to change all my videos, and you're going to spend 8 hours doing that. Don't do that. So hopefully that answers that question there about what you should do about your old thumbnails and your titles. And so, you know, think about those two things. If you have an old video you're like, that's really good content, you can redo it. There's no harm in redoing and updating a video. People do it all the time. And I think it's great new content. People do new updated things, you know, every summer. Maybe you did a summer sandals video last year. Well, you could do it again this year and update it and use all these tips in your thumbnails and titles. Or if it's videos you don't want to do again, like I said before, just redo the thumbnails and the titles, but to pay attention to the number, pay attention to the click-through rates, be aware of it, look at it 24 or 48 hours from now. It's not going to be the same when you first upload, but you might see some changes down the line if you change those thumbnails and those titles. All right, so I know I gave you a lot of information. You probably took a lot of notes. If you're listening on the podcast, this is live on YouTube, and I'm committed to going live on YouTube once a month. So if you want to join me here, then you can always come here on my YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe and like. And like I said at the beginning of this, my commitment is to share the stories of women on my podcast and to help women through my knowledge to help them share their stories. And in light of recent events, I do want to highlight the Black women in my community here. So please comment below. If you're here on YouTube, comment below. If you're on the podcast, come to the YouTube and comment. Leave names of people Black women that I should have on the podcast, and leave your own channels. If you're a Black woman in this community, leave your own channels so we can support you, so we can see what you're saying and what you're talking about. All right, have an amazing rest of your day, rest of your week, and I will see you in the next episode. Mwah.